There's gallery view. How are you? This is great.
I'm doing terrific. I want to welcome everybody. We have something really new today, which is the mindset wheel. How cool is that?
That is cool. Yeah.
Well, here's my view of the mindset. If your brain was a computer, then your mindset would be the operating system. And the programs would be your beliefs. Every one of your beliefs is either helping you improve your performance, or it's going to hold you back from going where you want to go. So essentially, what everybody wants, and I think I should do a visual.
Yeah, what
everybody is down here, and everybody wants to go up there. Everybody wants to reach their goals. And on the way to the goals, there's something that holds them back. And what holds them back most of the time is the belief system. And a lot of salespeople have self-limiting beliefs, or they have negative self-talk. I just did a workshop yesterday in Toronto, and a lot of people said, I put up a good front on the outside, but on the inside, I have anxiety, or I have negative thoughts, and they don't help me get what I want. They don't help me focus. So you have that paradox in sales training, where a lot of sales trainers want to teach salespeople how to behave, and they teach them skills. But really what's holding them back is their operating system. The program is good, but the operating system is not functioning. What do you think about that?
Wow.
I think you're preoccupied with technology at this point.
I'm just a moment here. I'm muting something here. There we go. How's that? I can hear you now perfectly. Are you on right there? Good. There we go. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm running three computers here today.
Right.
To make sure we get this thing working. And I didn't realize that I had the audio up on all three, but we are out there on Facebook Live. I got that. So you were talking about this.
In the meantime, I made another visual. The mindset is the operating system, and the beliefs is the program. So in our mindset workshop, we help people become aware where they have programs that don't work well, and that's why we have created that mindset wheel where people can connect the dots, and by taking the assessment, then they can find out where they need improvement, and then work on those areas where they need help.
Yeah, put that chart back up where we had the brain, the operating system. Yeah.
There we go.
Which one do you think breaks down the most?
Well, there are really two operating systems.
Okay.
One operating system is directed by the inner CEO, by the executive function of the brain. That's the prefrontal cortex. So that operating system is alert, is alive, is guiding our thoughts. But then there's a second operating system that's, I would call it automatic. And that's the old DOS operating system, where people have automatic thoughts that interfere with their performance. Does that make sense?
Those are historic thoughts. That's our childhood coming back and so forth.
Right.
Okay.
Where, a lot of salespeople think that they're not good enough. They can call on a certain category of customers, but when it comes to the C level, then they get inhibited. They say, well, I'm not good enough to call on a C-level executive. But who created that operating system? Probably they created it in their childhood, and they're not aware that they made it up, and they are not aware that they can change it. They can edit that operating system.
Okay, so how do we go about editing that operating system?
Good question. Do we have a guest today?
Yes. Hey, we got Karen Kennedy has come on.
All right,
Karen?
Of course.
Karen, jump in. I'm going to promote you to panelist here. Here we go. We have got Karen jumping in. Hey, Karen, how are you? Hold up. We got to unmute you here. Just a moment here. Just a moment. There you are. There you are. Now we can hear you.
Excellent. Well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. jump in on this conversation. This is great.
Well, I love this conversation. A huge fan of anything around mindset and traits. So what Gerhard talks about in a salesperson is so important, and also a sales leader, making sure that the sales leader doesn't put any inhibitors onto their team.
Mm-hmm. Great. Now, okay. So how do we change that historic operating system to make it more robust for today's world?
Right. In my opinion, it's all about self-awareness. So I'm an expert in a traits assessment that tells you your innate traits, and it really blends in well with Gerhard's assessment of where your mindset is today. And this really is based off the foundation of the nature versus nurture.
Okay. But build on that some more for us.
Mark, you want a more practical way
Yeah.
to deal with it. So let's assume you become aware, as Karen said, that there's something negative. And let's assume for as a practical example, I'm not good enough. So you can do two things. One is you can directly contradict it and said, it's not true. I'm good enough. But for many people, that doesn't work because they say the same thing and nothing happens. So one way to personalize this and make it more interesting, give it a little twist, is to say, Gerhard, you are not good enough. Use your first name. And then all of a sudden you shock your way into reality, which is, oh yeah, I am good enough. What are you talking about? So change the self-talk, change the language a little bit, and distance yourself from your internal self-talk and externalize it in a way where you say, Gerhard, you're not good enough, or Karen, you're not good enough, or Mark, you're not good enough. And the minute you hear it, the visceral reaction is say, it's not true. So you can dispute that negative thought.
Let's bring this around to sales.
Yes.
How does this impact if I'm sitting across the desk from a customer? I'm on the telephone with a customer, and the customer starts barking at me. Right. And my self-talk automatically goes shut down mode.
Right.
How do I get myself back up?
Karen, what's your thought?
Well, I mean, I automatically go into, I'm a subject matter expert. I have a lot to bring to this conversation. There's a good chance that what I'm talking about, I know way more than the person that I'm talking to. So I just have to keep telling myself that I'm bringing value. And how I then think about the next process is take a step back and figure out why we got to that place in that conversation, because I got the appointment or I'm sitting in front of this person for a reason. So then it's just closing the gap of, why is this person trying to brush me off? Maybe they're afraid to admit that they don't know enough, and I know more, and then it becomes almost a battle of egos.
Okay, now you're confident enough to realize that, but a lot of salespeople aren't. So that salesperson who isn't confident, what do they need to be doing before they go in on that sales call? What do they need to be doing to get themselves ready for that fight?
Okay, one of the shortcuts we have developed is that if you want to change your psychology, which is feeling inferior or feeling not good enough, you change your physiology. So you can use neuro-linguistic programming technique, and before you go in, you say yes, or you raise your arms over your head and go assume the victory position, and then all of a sudden your anxiety drops by 20-30%, and your adrenaline goes up, and your combative self comes out, and you're ready to meet the client. So
okay. So you're saying to physically go into that victory mode, the Heisman pose, whatever it might be.
Right. Right.
Okay.
That's a shortcut.
Well,
but the other thing is that there is a, when you teach salespeople to repeat things, like, I've interviewed successful golfers that say, well, I hit 1,000 shots a day. And a lot of salespeople don't believe in that rehearsal. So if they're, let's say, sensitive to a price objection and the customer says your price is too high, then they need to come up with a repertoire that they have rehearsed in the past, where they say, which means, compared to what? How much did you think it would cost? Or tell me more? Or just have a glib answer like the sweetness of low price is quickly forgotten when you have to deal day after day with the bitterness of low quality.
You know, you hit on something there, because that's one of the biggest mistakes salespeople make is they fail to prepare for the sales call.
Right.
They just think that they can go in and wing it, and they're going to wing it, and they're going to be successful. And you don't go into Major League Baseball winging it. You don't go into the NFL winging it. You don't go into the NBA winging it. So why should salespeople think that they can sit across from a customer, on the phone with a customer, and be successful?
There's another thing, which is called mindfulness.
Hey, I love your graphics. I love these graphics. This is awesome, man. I love it.
Very high tech, Gerhard.
He is, but you know, I love it. I love it. Give the guy a blue Sharpie and some white paper, and he goes to town. So mindfulness.
Right. So
Okay.
the question you need to ask yourself is your mind full, or are you mindful? So when people are full with thoughts and anxieties, then they're not ready for the here and now. They're not hearing the customer. They're not focused on the customer. So what you want to do before a sales call, you hit the reset button and purge your mind of negative thoughts. So there's a very simple exercise, a mindfulness exercise. Just read this book. I don't even remember the name, but I remember those 2 sentences. It was 100 pages, and this is what I walked away with. When you breathe in, you say, I'm aware of my body. And when you breathe out, you say, I'm letting go of all my tensions. And you do this 5 times, and all of a sudden, what you were worried about the past, or what you're concerned about the future, it fades away. And you are in the present moment. And that's the thing. So many salespeople, they have that pinball machine up there, where their thoughts bounce from one corner to the next, and they try to cover every angle. And that's not a good way to prepare. The best way to prepare, you empty your mind and let go of the tension and be in the present moment, because when you focus on the past or on the future, you're not in the present moment, and you don't hear the customer.
Hey, you hit on something there, and this is a tweetable moment. Are you mindful, or are you mindful?
Is your mind full, or are you mindful?
Right. I love that. I love that. Because you stop and think about this. And again, I hate to stereotype, but you look at the successful people and the non-successful people. Okay, we'll just say non-successful. The non-successful, well, you know which way they're going to be thinking. The
Right.
successful people, they walk into the situation, they're mindful of their
Right.
environment.
So if anybody wants an author, there's a guy named John Kabat-Zinn. John Kabat-Zinn. He's the #1 guru on mindfulness. So if you want to learn that, go to YouTube, watch a video. He has a lot of videos out there. He's a wonderful speaker. He's done TED Talks, and he has written a boatload of books.
Hey, we have got a guru of mindfulness and the mindset thinking watching us on Facebook right now, a guy by the name of Steve Siebel.
Right.
And I'm going to try to get him to come on over to Zoom. Hopefully he's been popping a couple notes. So continue to talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to get him the link. And
anybody wants to know about mindfulness or mindset, go to mindsetscience.com. That's our website. And we teach people how to use their minds more effectively to reach peak performance. And we also have certified trainers. We have now 50 people that teach the Peak Performance Mindset Training Program for salespeople. 50. What do you think of that, Karen?
I think it's great. I mean, the profession of sales, a lot of it is just in your head. So if you want to be at the top of your game, you have to invest in your head.
Absolutely.
And why do people not do that? I mean, let's be very candid. Why is it that people are not willing to invest in themselves?
Because they have been raised by parents that had a limited vision, where in the past, people were supposed to match their parents' achievement and maybe go a little bit beyond. But now we're in a different world where with different technology, as technology gets better, people want to get better. And there are more and more people that come to our workshops, and we have trained over 5,000 people. We have people now in South America and in Europe jumping on this. And everybody says, how can I get in? We have hundreds and hundreds of people going to our website and they want more information. So we're certifying more trainers so it can be delivered to more people.
What do you think the top end is for the number of people you can get trained?
I want to train 1 million people.
I love how you think small. I just love how you think small.
That's the one part of that mindset science course is, your mindset wheel. We have one question: do you habitually engage in no limit thinking at work and in your personal life? And a lot of people give themselves maybe a 25% rating, maybe 40% rating, and they don't dare to think beyond the box that either their parents have created for them or they have created themselves. And the thing is about your mind, it's all made up. We make it up, but we also can change it. We can change the dials and become no limit thinkers. Do you want to hear a story about that?
Yes.
There's Sarah Blakely she's the inventor of Spanx. When she was 16 years old, her parents got a divorce, and that was traumatizing for her. But also, she lost her best friend in a car accident. So here's a 16-year-old girl that is getting depressed, and her dad buys her CDs from Dr. Wayne Dyer, How to Be a No-Limit Person. And I've interviewed Wayne Dyer. I understand his philosophy around no-limit thinking. And Sarah listened to those tapes 400 times. And even her friends didn't want to go in the car with her anymore because they couldn't stand hearing the same thing over and over. And to her, it was like the imprinted mindset was changing. She edited it, and she became a no-limit thinker. So when she had the idea of Spanx, people told her, you're never going to get a patent for that. You're never going to get money for that idea because it's not going to work. You're not going to get a manufacturer to create Spanx for you. And if you get it, you're not going to get distribution. And if you get distribution, it's not going to sell. And she went to dozens of patent attorneys until she got the patent. Then she got the money. Then she got the manufacturing. Then she got the distribution. And today she's listed on the Forbes 500 list, and she's worth $1.2 billion.
Wow. Gerhard, your own story of how you started selling power.
Right.
I mean, that is a real testament to that same thing. I mean, you were you saw an opportunity, nobody else saw it.
Right.
And you stayed so laser focused on it that
Right.
you turned it into an unbelievable level of success.
And also like Karen. Karen has managed how many salespeople? About like 1,000?
My largest team was 600, but over my career in corporate America, I probably led or managed about 8,000 people.
Right. So you think about that. When you started out selling, Karen, you probably never dreamt about managing that many people in one company.
No.
Karen,
and the responsibility that comes with that.
Right.
Karen, I've got a question for you because I was in much the same position. Did you realize the impact that you had personally on people when you were in that position?
Not my first few positions,
Yeah.
but then I actually pursued a PhD in leadership theories because when you are leading, managing, and directing that many people, there's a tremendous responsibility. And I love the mindset component because there's so many people managers that don't understand that your persona, your outlook, your either optimism or pessimism is impacting hundreds of people every day.
It's the culture of the organization. I just wrote on my blog on this. In fact, I think it actually comes out tomorrow. But the culture drives top line sales and bottom line profit, much more so. But the problem I see with culture is that we tend to measure it from the inside, but how does the customer see your culture? Because that dramatically impacts what that customer value is worth to you. You know, Karen, it's very interesting because you were clearly one of the better ones that saw the personal piece. And I admit, when I said, I saw the macro piece, but I never quite grasped the individual responsibility that the leader has to every member. And I think when you do that, it changes your whole thinking. It changes your mindset. You begin to view things differently, because now you're seeing things not from a macro perspective, but from a micro perspective. The impact that you have one-on-one. And I think that's one of the things that I love about sales, is because we get to influence and impact people one at a time. Powerful.
Right, cool. And solving problems at every level.
Oh, yeah. Hey, we are getting some comments over here on the chat line, and we also got people who are watching us on Zoom. If there's any panelists who want to jump in and get on the video, just say so, and I'll bring you in, because we got room for more folks. So, hey.
And this comment is really good by Maxwell, where he says, culture is tied to character. So the character of the leader is reflected in the culture.
And you know what? And I think it all is built around a foundation of integrity. And it's easy to blow off these words. But boy, don't we see that, whether we see that in government, whether we see that in business, we see that in society, in families.
Right.
Integrity is that foundation of that culture and character. So yeah, great comment there from Maxwell. Hey, okay. Chris, you want to be on? We are going to bring you on. Chris, here we go. Are you ready? Let's get Chris in here. Stay right there, Karen, unless you want to disappear.
Oh, no, I'm here for the long haul.
Hey, Chris, how are you, man? Hey, Chris, you are connecting in from where?
Connecticut. Gerhard invited me.
Gerhard, yeah, what part of Connecticut? I used to live in Connecticut.
Did you? Danbury.
I used to live in New Fairfield.
Oh, we're neighbors.
Ball Pond Road, but that was back before Stu Leonard's and back before the mall.
Oh boy, yeah. Back then, I mean, New Fairfield was just a lot of open land and woods back then.
Danbury was the comment was, if Reed's didn't have it, you didn't need it. Reed's was the department store. So anyways, okay, that was too much about Connecticut history from the 80s. Okay.
So Chris, why don't you chime in on the conversation that we had earlier about self-talk, because Mark had asked a very valid question. When you're on a sales call and you feel that negativity flowing in your brain and sort of disturbing your vision of the problem that needs to be solved or identified. And you have written a book on that subject. Tell us about it.
The book I wrote was Master Your Inner Critic, Resolve the Root Cause, Create Prosperity. And what Gerhard said, a lot of times when we have certain feelings that come up when we're in situations like that, especially when there's pressure to perform or get to the next level, it's when those limited beliefs unconsciously kind of creep in and kind of keep us stuck. And what I talk about in the book, and what Gerhard was talking about, mindfulness, is really learning to operate within the solution rather than the effect of the cause of the problem. So the key to know that if there's a problem is to become aware that something's not working. You're either not closing enough sales, or you're not closing bigger deals that you're capable of doing, and recognizing that there's a roadblock or a barrier that's holding you back. And there's a process that you could go about getting there. And mindfulness is all about learning to be in the moment, focused on the moment that you're in with the process at hand. And if you do that, when you have clarity, the clarity is going to allow you to see greater opportunities around you and help you to lift those barriers away from you.
Chris, how do you bring clarity? What are the steps you would suggest for somebody to say, hey, I got to get clarity?
With clarity, it's all within, it's a process. So it's all with daily meditation and journaling. And when I say journaling, I mean writing down exactly after you meditate what comes to mind. How are you feeling? I know this can kind of sound a little deep, but this is something that people that are in sales can do on their own. They can be anonymous, but This technique really allows you over time to kind of look back what you've written down as from a third party perspective. Like you're looking at yourself from somebody else's point of view, and you'll be able to identify, wow, that's what, how I was feeling or what I wrote down. And now you can look back of what was holding you back, because the subconscious mind over time will reveal those problems to the conscious mind when you get into that rhythm.
Gerhard is writing some more notes. He's got the Sharpie out. He's got I see the Sharpie. He's coming.
There is a term psychologists use, and it's called guiding fiction. And a guiding fiction is the story that we tell ourselves about our lives. So we interpret all the experiences that we have during a week or a month or a year or a decade and say, this is our story. This is who I am. And when you don't have a process the way Chris describes it, where you don't journal on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, then you are using fragments, and then you tend to interpret the reality that you're experiencing in a way that's disconnected. So it's no surprise that some people feel at times that a different personality from what they thought they were. And then all of a sudden they have multiple views of themselves instead of one single focused view. Does that make sense?
It really comes back to, if you're not anchored, you're going to get buffeted by anything that comes along.
Right. But that is done by what Chris is suggesting. Keep a journal. Write down. And that's why we have, with the Peak Performance Mindset Workshop, we have a journal. And people write in their journal for 12 weeks. And then all of a sudden they have significant changes in their lives. Like one woman called me last week and she says, I went through the program, I've read worked with the journal, and I've committed to 10,000 steps a day, and I've lost 15 pounds. Or some sales manager says, in the last 3 months, I led my sales force to a 30% increase in sales in 2 months. And in the last 2 years, we never had double-digit sales increases. So a lot of things happen when you write it down and you become aware, and then you become tired of the same old. You want to self-create. This is the age of innovation. You want to reinvent yourself.
Why don't more people embrace this? Why don't more people get focused?
I think there's a lot of distraction. I mean, we live in a society with, social media notifications, emails, phone calls. I mean, we're multitasking, and for somebody to sit still for a couple minutes is like, it's like the hardest thing you can possibly do. I know growing up, I had ADHD, and I was able to manage it through meditation. So, and when I say ADHD, I'm not talking about from technology but I actually had it. I was born with it. But through meditation, you're able to really calm, the mind, the body down when you get into the rhythm. And as Gerhard said, I mean, when you write things down, you're taking things out. That's why the mind is full, like he says, full. But in this case, we want it to be mindful in a different way, where we can take a lot of the clutter out, get the clarity, and begin to find solve the problem, so we can then operate in the solution.
I just saw a squirrel go by. Excuse me. I just saw a squirrel. There's another one.
There you go.
Gerhard, let's get it. Here we go. Oh, wait. Whoa. Gerhard is exceeding his quantity of paper today. He's now writing on the back side.
You want to change your mindset from next to now. And that's what Chris is preaching. That's what we need to learn. And we need to be mindful and not full in our minds. Karen, do you do yoga or something?
Mostly I walk. I'm a big Girl Scouter, so we're a pretty active family. We do walking the dog seems to be our meditation for the day. But I also wanted to go back and close the loop on Mark's question about why people don't do this. I think there's something about, and I don't believe it's just true in this time frame, but professionals are a little bit cavalier and think that there's weakness in being vulnerable or asking for help or seeking help. What I see is executives get way derailed before they call in a coach like myself or somebody to help them get back on track. And they see it as a weakness, not as part of continuing their professional growth.
Hey, Doug DeVitri, I know this guy. Hey, Doug, do you want to come on the screen? If you want to come on the screen, type yes down there. I will put you on the screen, but he posed a great question. He said, sure.
Positive mindset when some of the people closest to you have a critical mindset. Welcome, Doug.
Hey, Doug.
Hey guys, how are you today?
You are connecting in from where? St. Louis?
Yeah, well, I guess I'm in Africa.
Yeah, yes, so you're somewhere. Okay, good. Hey, everybody else on this line is from Connecticut, so anyway. So
no, I'm West Coast.
West Coast. Well, that's okay. I used to. Oh, forget it. Let's go to Doug. Doug.
Well, I have this question just because it's something that I'm experiencing kind of in my life, where some of the people who are closest to me have had a real critical mindset, and it's affected my mindset and how I'm tackling the day. And so I'm trying to really get control of my own mindset so I can go out and positively influence others. So I don't know, just your guys' experience, how do you handle that when you're so close to something that can, affect you like that?
Is it close family or is it close business?
Close family.
Right. So you cannot escape.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
Right. Okay. So here's the way to
legally
to deal with it. Exactly.
Yeah.
One very important concept is the concept of boundaries. So you have physical boundaries from people where you can diminish the exposure and move away and not engage in the same dialogue over and over and over, because a lot of the toxic people have a repetitive mindset. They have repetition compulsion, and it's always the same song. And you want to dial down the volume in your mind, and by reducing the exposure, to have less frequent contact with that person, or not to respond. Right now, you're reacting to that. And reaction formation is not helping it, because you get intoxicated through that contact. But if you respond instead of reacting, meaning that you tell your inner CEO, you make an executive decision, I'm going to keep silent and let the other person say whatever they want for as long as they want, but I'm not going to respond to that. I'm going to keep my mental distance from that, because you are, by virtue of the fact that you're present, you become the target of their toxic broadcast. And you can either remove yourself physically or remove your decision you made in the past to respond to that. So by not responding, you quiet your mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm taking notes. Thank you. It's very helpful.
I'll share a couple things that I do. First of all, I want to start off the day complimenting somebody besides my wife. I always start off the day by complimenting somebody about something they've done. And it does a couple things. When I'm now focused on complimenting somebody else, I become more grateful of what I am. I also spend a few minutes there every morning just being thankful and appreciative of what I've been able to do, what I've been able to. And I may have had a lousy day the day before, but there was something in that day. So it really becomes, and I have a deep faith, and I go to my faith a lot, but I'll tell you what, it really comes down to being anchored. And if you start the day right, I'll tell you what, I mean, I walk into a particular Starbucks here in Omaha, and there's a barista there who is just simply over the top. And you can't have 20 seconds of interaction with this guy and not be jazzed. Well, there are some days that I've gone in specifically to that Starbucks and make sure that barista is working there, because he's going to jazz me. it really comes down to who do I associate with in that first couple hours every morning. Because you're right, you can't get rid of family members. Sometimes you wish you could, but nah, sticky.
So, Karen, what's your advice to Doug?
Well, I find having a routine is very helpful, and sometimes when I feel like the universe is coming in on me, I go to kind of a mantra of the universe is good and bountiful. And I just keep saying that over and over and over again until, to Gerhard's part, I believe it. The universe is good and bountiful.
You know what's interesting? Who was it? Zig Ziglar had to comment. When you change your outlook on life, you'll change your output or your outcomes in life. And just what you said, Karen, it's amazing how you look at life very much impacts how you see it.
Let's hear from Chris. Let's hear Chris's advice to Doug because we want to help him.
Thank you.
So in terms of, just elaborate what everyone was saying, yes, as Karen said, a routine is really important. And you got to really, when you start each day, to really have that dialogue, about yourself, that you have that relationship with yourself, because if you're going to be able to be grateful and be able to offer gratitude and compassion to other people, you have to have that within you first. And, meditation really is really important to start the day, even a workout in the morning, something to get the blood flowing. And that kind of routine for me works very, very well in getting the day started and able to handle any obstacles that come your way too, because they don't tend to kind of stick to you as much when you're in the right mindset.
Hey, you want to know something? Doug has got the cutest kid you will ever see in the world. Doug, you have got one stud of a kid.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have one more advice to you, which is a mindset shift. When you think about that person that is irritating to you, that gets you down, then you may want to shift your perspective of that person. A lot of people are not deliberate or they're not aware that they're hurting you. They're not aware that they're impacting you negatively. So by just changing your belief system, they're not out to hurt you. They're just emotionally littering because they don't know anything else. They don't have they don't have an emotional regulation system that's functioning. Mm-hmm. So you can also shift to empathy and say, I changed my belief system. That person is not here to annoy me. That person is annoyed with himself or herself. And I feel their pain, because if they're pain in the neck to me, they're pain in the neck to themselves.
Yeah. So
maybe you can shift that perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, Gerhard, you're so right on that. I mean, a lot of times when things happen to us, when we perceive it's like something personal to us or an attack on us, it's really their own stuff. They have their own unresolved root cause to their problems. And when perhaps if you're in a better mindset, that kind of really solidifies that they know there's something not right with them. They don't know that directly from you, but they can pick up on that energy. So the key is have compassion, have empathy, but yet set boundaries. Because if that negativity begins to persist, it can get to you. So you have to be able to have a fine line of having compassion, empathy, but also establishing those boundaries, knowing when to remove yourself. So it does become a toxic relationship.
Everybody stay on the line. I'm going to try to get Maxwell on here. He's been throwing out some great comments out there on the chat board. Let's see if he wants to. Is he coming on?
Thanks, guys. Very helpful. Appreciate it.
Hey, there's Maxwell. I love it. He's in his car. I love it, man. Yeah, all right. How are you, man?
Good. How you doing?
From Wilton, Connecticut. I love it.
Well, I was saying I lived in Wilton, Connecticut. Currently, I'm in Sacramento, California.
Oh, so you've gone to Karen's side of the world. Okay.
I have. I mean, we all have to wake up and get smart someday, right?
Sorry, Chris, you're still living there. Jump in. What's your question? What's your comment, Maxwell?
I was just saying, going along with the talk about gratitude, I've noticed the power of being specific. You know, my wife and I were also very religious, and so we pray together. And I've noticed that when she's expressing gratitude, the way it feels to me, when she's specifically grateful for the way our kid does something that day or a specific event, it just makes our day that much better, because we can get really repetitive in saying, you know, oh, I'm grateful for life, I'm grateful for my job, I'm grateful for my home. But if we're specific, that's when it gets out of that repetitive nature. And for me, it's become a lot more powerful. And I think the same goes when we are expressing appreciation for others as well. In my comments, Mark, I was saying that, you know, you can say something to someone like, oh, I think you're doing a great job today. Or you can say, I think you're doing a great job at managing your time. When we're being specific, it just makes things a lot more genuine, less repetitive, and for me, more impactful.
I had a sales. Go ahead, Gerhard.
It sounds more authentic and more real, and it's more impactful. I totally agree with you. Yeah. So, Maxwell, how would you help Doug with a toxic relative at home?
I think that's a real challenge, one that I think we all experience at some point or another. And I think Gerhard's advice has been very powerful. Just being able to not take offense when offense isn't meant to be given, and being able to not buy into it and ignore it, and being laser focused on what your goal is. And then usually these people, when they are negative, it's because of something that they're going through personally. And so if we can show that empathy, like has been mentioned, and taking the time to listen and kind of help them overcome what challenges they're going through, I think that's probably the best effect. And also realizing that everybody has their own agency. We're all individuals, and we can't control others. And that can be really difficult, a really hard lesson. But it's something that we have to accept, that we can only control ourselves.
Hey, I want to spin this back around. If you think about sales calls, you know, you make sales calls. Oh, I don't want to pick up the phone. I don't want to call anybody because they're gonna tell me no. You know, so many times what happens is they're just venting on you from everything else that they've had going on in their life that day. You just happen to be the anonymous person who called them at that moment. They're not jumping on you. They're not commenting about you. They're commenting on their environment. Don't let that phase you. Totally irrelevant. Move on to the next call. Move on to the next call. But it really comes back to, I think, Chris, what you said. It really is that anchor. What's your anchor?
You got to be really comfortable with yourself and know that you have to be detached from the outcome, and know that you have, like as Maxwell said, you don't have any control over what other people do and how they're going to react. You can only control your own behavior. And the key is, again, to know that it's not about you. It's about what's going on with them. And you, like I said, you got to have a balance of compassion and empathy for them. But again, establish, as I mentioned to Doug, have boundaries, because again, if you invite certain negative people in, they could take your energy. So you have that fine balance of both, to kind of put those boundaries up.
Yeah.
The other way to think about this, Doug, is that people really don't want to hurt somebody else. They lash out because they're hurting themselves, and in many ways it is a cry for help. So maybe you want to think about that direction. What help could you get that person? Maybe there's some issue that maybe it's medical. You don't know where the hurt is or where the hurt originated, but the general principle that we were talking about is that you never allow people to rent space in your head. It's your space up there. You set the boundaries, as Chris said.
Hey, for those of you on Facebook, we're talking about peak performance mindset. So we've had people kind of popping out on Facebook, and we should be talking about what is it that we're talking about. But Gerhard, you just hit on something. As soon as we allow other people to get into our mind, the day's gone. It's over. We are no longer in control. And again, you look at that peak performer, they don't allow other people to get into their mind at all. They
don't
shut
give away the
down.
power.
Yeah.
What would be examples of some things that you would say to yourself in order to establish that boundary in your head? Like what type of self-talk?
Well, it's self-affirmation that you start out as Mark says, every day in every way I'm getting better and better. Dan Waldschmidt, he says, today I will do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to reach my goal. So in essence, what we all want to do is, I'm trying to get back to my first visual. We are here. We want to be up there. And that journey is interrupted by the interference. And who is running interference is your relative, who is the customer, who is your own self-talk. And peak performance is only possible when we recognize that barrier and break through the barrier. So you want to fortify yourself with affirmations every morning where you say, I'm okay, and I'm going to have a terrific day. And you make that decision every morning when you get up. A lot of people wake up and they're depressed, and other people wake up and say, I have a success attack. I cannot wait to execute my goals. I cannot wait to reach my dreams. So you want to be firm about where you want to go, and you should not allow other people to control you, or you shouldn't control other people. You can only influence people, but you can control your mind.
I think, Gerhard, what you said, I mean, the outcome is always important, but begin to kind of focus on the process and detach yourself from the outcome, because that's where our expectation is. And when things don't happen, we get discouraged and we kind of regress. So the key is, just kind of be focused on the process. Know that, even if it goes bad or good, because you're gonna have good and bad days, that it's all moving forward to where you want to go. And just make each day with goals that you have that are attainable, because they all roll up. It's like a bank account. Investing, it keeps compounding. And that's what's key. And detach yourself from the outcome, detach yourself from other people, because you can't control how they're going to react and what they're going to say and what they're going to do.
On that whole goal thing, I always want to end the day thinking about what was the most successful thing I accomplished that day. It just allows me to end the day on a bigger mindset. At the end of the week, I go, what was the biggest accomplishment I had for the week? I had a coaching client I was doing a call with this last Friday, and the person mentioned that they had a terrible week. We went through and said, whoa, wait a minute. There were some incredible successes, and it was amazing. The person's mindset was changing as we were talking. They were going to go into the weekend totally bummed out. They really went into the weekend on a positive note. I got several more notes from that person over the weekend over how other stuff, amazing. It changed the mindset. And then what I always say is, comes right out of the movie Tommy Boy. Set yourself an easy goal to accomplish Monday morning, because it's amazing. I don't want to be known for easy goals, but what I want to do is I want to set a goal that I can achieve by 9:30 in the morning. What does that do? Boom, success, momentum creates momentum.
Let's throw the ball back to Doug. Doug, what are you going to do as a result of the conversation and the ideas that you have harvested from all of us?
Yeah, thank you. I've got a bunch of notes here. Establishing boundaries is going to be critical in order to cut that off. Next is really getting back in a routine, which I've had before, but I guess lately this kind of been in this spiral, which I know that I can get out. It's just a matter of getting in that routine. And I think that even though it's so simple, it's just a matter of doing it, is really getting a habit of being grateful for just everything. But more specifically, the affirmations to remind myself that, I can do this. I can do this. Things are possible. I've got a great support group. All the things that you would normally say, and I think probably will be helpful also, is to not just use this kind of scripted affirmations, but kind of create my own and look at them on a more regular basis.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Karen, you've been awfully quiet.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt. Well, I think I was thinking about the boundaries and appreciation, and there's so much tied into that about understanding who's around you. So I am a traits expert. Half the population are think it through people and half the population are talk it through people. And so sometimes the people around us are in that category of talk it through. And sometimes I found all I have to really do is start repeating what somebody is telling me or saying to me and figure out, is this just part of their process, or are they looking for some empathy, guidance, assistance, and how can I help? It's just human nature.
That's cool. That's neat. Great discussion. Hey, we got somebody else who's sitting out there in the wings. Michelle, would you like to be on? Because I can bring you on. I think we can get a lot more people on here. Let me just interrupt Michelle's day here. Let me just see if we can promote her. Let's see. She's been sitting there so patiently. Hey, there she is. Hey, Michelle, how are you? We're gonna unmute Michelle there. Let's see. Is she gonna join us? Maybe we just have a picture here. Maybe not. Maybe not. Anyway, if she wants to join in.
Webcam on.
What?
She's got to turn her webcam on.
Yeah, she's got to turn. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe she didn't want to join us. So anyway. But,
So,
hey.
Doug, I want to go back.
Oh, she's saying, hold on. She's coming. She's coming. Okay, jump in. Gerhard, go ahead.
Doug, do you have an iPhone?
I do, yeah.
Okay, go to the App Store and check out an app called Think Up.
Okay. Funny thing is I've got that. I just need to use it. That's the other reminder.
So go and use it.
Yeah, I think you program your own affirmations, right? Yes. And then you can play music in the background. Yeah.
Well, and Gerhard, I love my daily delivery of I subscribe to Gerhard's RSS, and I get my daily little email of positivity.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The daily boost of positivity from sellingpower.com. You just go to sellingpower.com and you get it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Hey, Doug, you hit some absolute truth with what you said. You said, I have the app, I haven't used it. I have got so many. I mean, we all are guilty. How many of us are guilty of having things we know we could use that would help us? Oh, squirrel. There's a squirrel. And we never get around to using it. A squirrel. There.
I think we need a garage sale.
There we go. Yeah, you're right, because sometimes what happens is we wind up getting so many messages, so many tools, so many things. I met with my staff this morning, and they gave me several new things that I need to start doing and whoa, my head's blown. Even before I got on this call with Gerhard. That's really creepy, really scary. So anyway.
I think it comes back to what was said earlier about being focused. And I think sometimes we have so many different outside sources competing for our attention that we get distracted. And so combining what was said about being focused, and Mark, what you were saying about starting your day off with a small goal. I've been reading this book, and it's talking about the domino effect and the power of dominoes, and how each time a domino falls over, it can knock a domino over that's twice its size. So if you start with small, soon, eventually you'd be able to knock over, the Eiffel Tower, ideally, if you had dominoes in the right proportion. And so if we have that same mindset when we're setting personal goals or work goals of, okay, this is my big picture, but how small can I start it? You're going to start a chain reaction that's going to lead to something big. You're going to be more positive while doing it because your successes are lining up. And it just becomes a much more advantageous method than, hey, I'm going to do this huge thing and go for it. And then most of the time we end up failing because we're just starting too big.
Right. And the book was called The Domino Effect?
No, the book is actually called The One Thing. By Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. It's been a great read so far.
I'm gonna get a copy of that. Thank you.
Yeah, Maxwell, he's right on. I mean, we tend to. I think what happens, we focus on the big picture, which is great. You want to still have that vision, but when it's not clearly defined and broken down daily, we can become overwhelmed. And when we become overwhelmed, it produces anxiety, and then anxiety produces procrastination, and that's why we tend to put off things. and we end up gravitating towards things that are not productive going towards that goal. But Mark, when you mentioned about doing one easy goal, well, again, making each day those goals attainable, not too easy, but not too hard,
right?
And let them compound over time so you get towards that end goal, whatever that is, that you've clearly defined for yourself.
Right. So you don't have that buried feeling. Yeah.
Exactly. You keep focused and you're not kind of scattered and you're not overwhelmed. And because again, stress and fear are a byproduct of being in the past. Anxiety is a byproduct of being projected into the future. But if you could bring yourself centered into the moment, focused on the process for each task at hand without worrying about what you got to do tomorrow, you're going to be better off in the long run of reaching that goal and not feeling pulled into the past and into the future.
Yeah. Gerhard, jump in.
We have exactly 3 minutes left.
Yeah, we got to kind of bring this to a close here.
Yeah, I'd like for everybody to leave. We have over 1,000 people listening to this. Share one idea that people should implement starting today to improve their mindset.
Chris, jump in. We'll go Chris, Karen.
I would say the first thing to improve your mindset is becoming aware of there's something not working, whether in your personal life or your business. You're not where you want to be, but you don't know what the problem is, but becoming aware that there's something not working. That should be the first step to becoming more mindful. And then there's other things that will come after that.
Great.
We'll bring that up.
Karen, then we'll go Maxwell and Doug.
All right, so mine's going to be very focused on salespeople and sales leader, and I am a Girl Scout through and through. Be prepared. Always be prepared. It does great things for the mindset.
Maxwell.
I'm going to say take action. There's been a lot of great things said here today, and a lot of times people have these limiting beliefs, and they're afraid of taking that first step, but you just have to take courage and make a plan and take action.
Doug.
Awesome. You know, I've got the app. I re-downloaded, so thank you, Gerhard, for sharing it. And just one thing, that the first time I recorded the affirmations, you know, it was kind of like depressed, like, you know, I think I can do this. It's like I'm listening over here. It didn't connect. So when I re-record these affirmations, I have to do it in a positive tone, not in kind of a suppressed tone. So very valuable today. Thanks, guys, for hosting this.
Thank you. Mark?
Gerhard, I always start off each day by praising, complimenting somebody very specific to get yourself into that right frame of mind. Gerhard.
Yeah, I want to echo what Maxwell said. I really like that, and put it in a package. Don't stew, go out and do. Action creates motivation. And anybody who wants more stuff, go to mindsetscience.com. You can watch like 50 videos and learn more than you have time for stewing about problems.
Hey, you know what? We should do one shout out for Sales 3.0 conference coming up in Vegas.
Yeah, Karen is going to be there, right?
Good. I'm going to be there too.
It always pains me when I have to miss one. I'm a Gerhard groupie. What can I say?
Okay.
All right.
Because I go right from that conference to Australia. So anyway, hey guys, this has been absolutely terrific. This has been the weekly Sales Kickoff. I love it.
Awesome.
Huge success.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.